What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have an album review for you. Yet another one that I wanted to go over, because the hype around this band has been steadily building with every release. So we are going to go over the latest offering from Hulder, Verses in Oath. This also comes out on the 9th of February on 20 bucks spin. This band formed in 2018 in Washington. This is their second full-length overall. I got into them with their first full-length. Oh, God, they had to say this here. God's Last Ring, Hymns of a Forlorn Peasantry, which came out in 2021. I was kind of late to that one. And we actually went over their last EP, Eternal Fanfare, in 2022, I believe. Nope, that's exactly what I wrote. For those who don't know, this is essentially a one-woman black metal act. She does, all the songwriting and mostly the guitars and synths in terms of the overall performances on the albums. But she does have help along the way. As for her name, I probably should have wrote it down, but I didn't. I wrote down, I guess, what she goes by in terms of a stage name other than Hulder. Mars, M-A-R-Z. But, well, I know her last name is at least Osborne because her husband, Sam Osborne, plays bass on here. And interestingly enough, and I might have brought it up when we did the EP review, he is Buzz Osborne's nephew. So there's like a interesting relation to the Melvins there. But this band is pretty much just straightforward black metal with a lot of medieval and folk themes that kind of, go through it. It's very melody driven, but it's also pretty damn heavy at times. It's a really interesting project, and I've been kind of anticipating this one for a while.
And of course, you all know me by now, late to the black metal game, so my introduction to most of these bands I've been fairly picky about, but I figured it's 2024 now, I might as well broaden my horizons and jump into Hulder, and this was the first time I've really sat down and listened to them. Although I do know people in the band, Charlie Cornyn's on drums.
Charlie Cornyn's on drums a lot.
Charlie, you can do no wrong. We just saw you with Incantation, and man, yeah. So, but that's about as much as I know of Hulder until today. Gets right into the intro, an elegy, which consists of no music whatsoever, but rather a cawing crow that will not shut the hell up as a tornado approaches.
Yeah, you get this steadily building wind, and the crow seems like it's warning you. It's like, dude, why are you standing there? Like, the weather's getting kind of bad, dude.
Yeah.
Go inside. Yeah, I kind of waited for, some music to really kind of start there. But no, it is almost 2 minutes long, and I was like, well, that's entirely too long for what it is. But it gets right into Boughs Ablaze, and this is where you get into the bulk of their sound. Very tremolo heavy, blast beats, lots of second wave stuff. There's lots of Bathory worship, but kind of like that later Bathory where it started getting more epic, I would say. But the production sounds really good. This is pretty crisp sounding. It's still got a hefty amount of grit, especially on the guitars and the vocals. But overall, it sounds big, and it sounds pretty epic. All the tremolos have good melodic hooks to them, across the board, I would say.
Now that song, most particularly, at least in my opinion, is kind of the more simplistic of any of the songs on this record. Lots of melody, there are good building transitions. It's simple, but it's jamming.
Yeah, kind of similar to the title track where it kind of stays locked in on one particular melody and just hammers it home. Granted, the two songs are very different in comparison in terms of their vibe. A Boughs Ablaze feels very epic. It kind of blasts and marches its way in and announces itself and, greets you to a lot of cool melodies. But the title track, while it's similar in the fact that they kind of hammer on one particular riff for a good chunk of it, way more sinister, way more dark, way more aggressive.
Yeah, a lot heavier, not as bright, I would say, with the melody, although all of this is dark and cold. It's just the melody on Boughs Ablaze, at least, was more out in the open and more triumphant.
Yeah, you get a good mix of that on here. I would say this is a very moody and shifty album. While it does lay on a lot of the tropes of black metal in terms of those tremolo harmonies, blast beats, some really nasty kind of low vocals too. Because I wasn't sure if I remembered her vocals being that low in the last EP or the last full length, but they seem like they've kind of dropped down a bit. Yep. Almost kind of a blackened death metal.
Yeah, because they're really raspy too.
Yeah.
So not the typical like pleading vocals of some black metal, but like it's just kind of sinister and a little bit evil with that raspiness.
Yeah, and I mean, in terms of like black metal tropes, some of this doesn't necessarily fit in that. Namely, one of the things in terms of the production is the fact that the guitars sound really thick and really heavy. And generally in black metal, you get more of that high gainy sound, especially stuff that, emulates like old school second wave black metal, which this definitely has its roots in. You can hear stuff that sounds like Emperor, Satyricon, definitely a lot of Immortal. But at the same time, the guitars, I mean, it almost could fit in death metal a little bit.
Oh, yeah. And like a good example of these heavier tones would be in songs like Enchanted Steel, where, I mean, it's downright death metal, low-end tremolo, and they're just big, open, crunchy riffs, just like fully encapsulating everything.
Yeah, there's not that like kind of like tinny, gainy sizzle to it. Like it's a very robust, heavy tone, and that kind of paired off with the lower, raspier vocals, like it has like almost a blackened death metal vibe to it. But when you like break down the actual style of the music, like it's still very much black metal. I think that's like an interesting thing on here, and it kind of keeps it from sounding like, a majority of like second wave worshiping black metal, because I mean, there's still a ton of it coming out. And I like the frequently shifting moods on here. Like not all of this feels like your standard very sinister black metal, or it's like triumphant or all the time, or folky all the time. You get a blend of all of those elements. The folkier side really comes out in the acoustic guitar pockets that pop up all over here. And generally the melodies are just really beautiful. Like they're just excellently done. But I like when they kind of shift around an entire song, like Hearken the End. Very epic song. Like honestly, it's the longest song on the album too. And this one showcases some clean vocal harmonies. There's like more gothic synths on it. Like it has a completely different mood than I would say almost every track on here.
That song's got a full-blown choir in it.
Yeah, and it has this kind of haunting, forlorn, very somber vibe to it. But then you go on later, you get Cast into the Well of Remembrance, which is very triumphant, like it gallops into battle, sets it up with a nice, like, heavy tremolo, a mid-tempo pace, very Immortal, or in their more, epic sounding Wolves in the Throne Room, I would say. It's got a bit of that Cascadian flavor.
Yeah.
But you also have songs like Vessel of Suffering, which is notably more dark, sinister, very aggressive sounding. There's this repeated stomping riff that goes through it. There's just a total like tonal shift from like a lot of the more dreary stuff in here. So I like the fact that this explores a lot of like moody avenues.
And then we get down to the end of this record, Veil of Penitence, which is just a beast of a song. It's straight aggressive, very blackened death metal. We've lost most of the tropes at this point of second wave black metal, and we're just going for the throat. And it's incredibly dynamic. They pack a punch into this song.
Oh, dude, it builds up so well, and immediately hooky. Like that tremolo hook, it has a great harmony to it, and I love how, again, like thick and meaty that tone is. Like it just kind of makes it sink in as a more aggressive song. You have this brief little pause where there's the clanging of swords.
Yep.
It's battle time, and then that song just detonates. Like right into like a Marduk style blast section where it's just going Mach 10. I love the aggression of the song, but also I love how just flat out epic it is.
Yeah.
Lots of cool transitions, lots of great catchy melodies. Like this is probably my favorite song on the entire album, just because it packs everything I like about black metal in there, but it kind of gives it like a little bit more of a death metal sort of approach to it in terms of the aggression.
But there are some things about this album that I found distaste with. I think that both of us found distaste with. And the first thing I would like to touch on is the synths, the keys. In at least the first half of the album, they are way louder than they need to be. And maybe that's in part due to the tone they have, but as is shown in the back half of the record, all they can do with the guitars, why are you not doing more of that in the front half?
Yeah, there were moments in the front half where they were doing synth harmonies, and it sounded like, the guitars were very pushed back in the mix, or they were just sort of droning on a tremolo. And while I was listening to that, I was like, man, why couldn't you just do like a guitar harmony and then have that lead melody as a synth pattern, but like a little bit further back because, when the guitars really took over in the back half, I think the album kind of just got like a big jolt of energy.
Yeah.
And, the front half, while I like it, I think the synths were just really overpowering at points and just too layered.
Because to me, when I was starting to get into black metal, in fact, one of the things I didn't like about black metal to begin with was the overpowering of synths. Like, that was just a huge turnoff to me. And the way this record started out was that same turnoff to me.
That and, well, again, we brought up kind of a tale of two halves here. This album, I think, is really backloaded, in my opinion. And backloaded with, like, the best songs of the album, I think. I really enjoyed Harken the End, but the other two tracks in there I thought were just good. But the back half is packed with not only the most aggressive songs, but some of the most catchy ones. Like, just in terms of melodies and hooks and really awesome guitar work. Like, it's the last four tracks. The front half, again, kind of gets off to a shaky start with that long, kind of pointless intro. Because, I feel like you could have done 20 seconds of that or 30 seconds of that and, kind of build it into Battles Ablaze and it'd be fine. The mood is set.
Right.
It's cold. It's windy. There are crows.
Maybe even have a little bit of a music tag on the end of that song instead of cutting out with thunder and lightning and then immediately bursting into very layered keys.
But then you have the middle of the album, which I think it's kind of odd. Like, you have two songs that are like more transitional or atmospheric. Lamentation is weird. It's very creepy. It sounds like someone listening to an operatic aria on an old radio, and they keep tweaking with the knobs and like, stop it. It was fine. You quit messing with it. But at the same time, someone's playing like audio of like the EVPs that people hear in, ghost hunting shows.
Yep, and it's very warbled the whole time.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's very uneven. And then an offering, well, I don't necessarily hate the song. It's very different from, again, another one that's just very different from everything else in the album. It's more of a gothic synthwave song.
Yeah.
It has those weird, like, vocalized synths where it's just like, the key changes.
The baritone choir, and then Mars kicks in with the rest of the choir. It's got a good, like, gradual build to it. There's some piano, there's some war drums, but that's it.
Yeah, it's very somber and reflective. Like, it's a calm point in the album that's actually musical versus, Lamentation and Elegy, which it's just kind of additional atmosphere that I feel like could have been peppered in a song somehow. But I don't know, like that whole middle dip in there is just odd. But once you get cast into the well of remembrance, like the album just takes off again and doesn't stop from there on.
Like, I feel like this album could have been 2 EPs. Like the first 4 tracks on one where it's, again, a little bit lighter in the mood, so to speak. And then the back half, which is just crushing. Like, it seems kind of unevenly yoked.
Yeah, like, the pacing of it is very odd. Like, you definitely feel that big dip in the middle. But overall, honestly, I think this is still pretty solid. And I know there's, like, a tremendous hype around this band in general, which the hype machine is very dangerous because, throws you up on a level there. Like, hey, you were going to be great and everyone's going to love you. And, well, that kind of invites a lot of discourse.
Yeah.
But honestly, I want to give this 3.5 stars. I think this is really well done for the most part. A lot of my issues come down to the pacing, that whole front half and back half vibe. Like, I don't know if that was intentional, but I really feel like it is totally backloaded with some absolutely excellent songs. Like, those last 4 are amazing. And the closer is probably the best fucking song on here. Like, it is legit awesome.
It's a good one.
But yeah, like, I feel like there's just stuff on here that, maybe you're padding out the length a little bit. It's just, 40 minutes, but you strip out the interludes and, maybe those middle 2 tracks and such. I think you'd still have like a solid, 35-minute album overall.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, like, I dig most of this. Like, I think it's really solid. Harken the End, I think, is a really good melodic turn on there too. Might pop up a little bit earlier in the album than I would like, just because I feel like at that point it really needed to kind of assert a little bit of dominance in the song, like Enchanted Steel or, Cast in the Well of Remembrance. A song like that in that place, I think would have just like kind of like got the energy going a little bit quicker. But yeah, if you're a big fan of, I'd say a lot of second wave black metal, like definitely Immortal, Wolves in the Throne Room, even though they're not second wave black metal. But, you know, it has that sort of vibe. Like, if you just like riffy black metal with a lot of melody to it, I think you'd probably dig this.
I'm going to give it 3.5 as well. Now, again, me being, I don't want to say necessarily new to black metal anymore, but still rather picky about what I like. I don't really know if my rating means a hill of beans to you, to be honest. But the first half of the record, I'm going to be honest with you, I wasn't a gigantic fan of. Like, there's certain things to me that need to be in music, or in black metal at least, to make them appealing to my ear. The heavy layered synths and them being too loud definitely was not a thing I enjoyed. I also didn't find favor with the 3 tracks that are interludes or whatever. But beyond that, the back half of the record is what I enjoyed most. Everything really from Versus an Oath, and then you skip the 2, weird tracks, and then from Cast into the Well of Remembrance and beyond, this record is an absolute banger. Riffy, heavy, moody, emotive, just great song structure, great, the building, the transitions all went really well. Like, I liked how there was just an immediate shift and it got colder and darker and more mean and kind of angry. Like, to me, that's what I like about black metal. And I'm not completely shitting on the first few songs. It just, to my ear, wasn't something I caught on to. I'm not going to list bands because I'm not, again, a good enough judge to know what to compare them to. I can say Wolves in the Throne Room because I saw them live. And even though they're not second wave black metal, I've been listening to those guys for a long time. So maybe that. Maybe comparisons. Yeah, maybe some Immortal because I know a little bit of it. But really, whatever Nick said as far as bands are concerned, I trust his judgment. Overall, it was still a good record. It's just very backloaded. But the backloaded half is what I really enjoyed. So that's where I'm at.
So if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there is a link down below to thrallsmetal.com. Our Patreon link is there. It is also on our channel up in the banner in the bottom right-hand corner. But if you're looking for Thralls Metal stuff, you have to go to thrallsmetal.com. We have t-shirts. We have old shirts that are discounted, provided we have your size. We even have hats. So if you're looking for any of that stuff, hit the link down below.
And if you're fearful about Thralls of Metal running out of content, it's not going to happen. We have tons more reviews coming. We have discography rankings coming. The Almighty Black Dahlia Murder, followed by the Almighty Meshuggah. Nick has collection updates. What's John Jammin will return after I figure out what the hell is going on in my life. But it will return. Most of all, though, we keep doing this stuff non-stop for you guys because we appreciate all of you for continuing to show your love and support for Thralls of Metal. It just makes us know that we're doing something right, or something for that matter. I don't know.
Bound to happen.
Right, right. I don't really know, and we appreciate you guys hanging out with us and talking to us, although I don't really understand that either because we're us.
There's way cooler people at whatever venue we're at. I guarantee it.
Right. But the fact that we get to run into you guys at shows and hang out and BS music with you and talk to you online, and you guys have made Thralls of Metal a much bigger part of our lives, and we're thankful that you've made it a big part of your lives, so thank you.
Yeah, you guys absolutely rule, and I know we said the same shit at the end of every videos, but we mean it. That's why we keep saying it. So yeah, plenty of stuff coming, and with that, I'm going to thank you one more time, because you guys are awesome, and we will catch you later.